And of course, when you're mixing up a pound cake, what do you start with? Butter and shortening, okay? My pound cake has shortening in it, and it is good. So we're going to put in 1 cup of shortening into the mixer. We're going to add 3/4 cups of room temperature salted butter. You do want a little salt in your pound cake. We will be using all-purpose flour. So this is 3/4 cups of room temperature butter going in the mixer with a cup of shortening. And you're going to beat this until it's nice and fluffy. Just going to make sure it's mixed in there good and there's nothing stuck on the sides or the bottom. And now I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar. You need to turn up your mixer and get it real nice and fluffy. All right, my instructions tell you to beat that 2 minutes in order to get it nice and fluffy. And you can tell that it turns color almost white looking when it's ready. Sometimes when you make a cake, you always sift your flour. White lily flour comes pre-sifted. Most of the time, if it's a fresh bag of flour, always look at the date on it before you buy it. It will not have to be sifted. In this pound cake, I do not sift my flour. In some other cakes, I do. Okay, for the best results to make a cake, it's great to use winter wheat flour. White lily flour already is that. A lot of people buy cake flour, and white lily flour is equivalent to cake flour. I have my eggs cracked. There's 9 eggs. And we're just going to add them to the mixer one at a time and let them mix in between each addition. We're going to add a teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. We're going to add our flour 1/2 cup at a time until we get 3 cups of flour in here.
If you're enjoying this video, please give us a like. If you're new to the channel, please head down, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell for notifications when new videos are uploaded.
I'm going to go ahead and add my vanilla. We're going to put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 1 teaspoon of almond flavoring. I'm going to put in a little extra because this is not real extract. And then the almond extract is, we'll put in a teaspoon of almond. Now, if you don't like almond, you can use butter or whatever flavor you want to use. Lemon, coconut, however you want to do it. You could add coconut to the cake mix, and you'd have a coconut pound cake. You're going to let this mix for about 2 minutes, and then we'll pour it up in our large bundt pan. You have to have a 10-cup bundt pan. This is a nice, beautiful pound cake batter. It's my favorite pound cake. It makes a nice crust on the top, crunchy, like I like. All right, I have sprayed a bundt pan, and I prefer spraying it because it has so many cracks and crevices. If you want to, you can grease and flour it. Just make sure everything is greased and floured. This is a very large cake pan. My bundt pan is a 12-cup bundt pan, and this pound cake is going to fill it all the way up. So if you have a 10-cup bundt pan, do not use all of this cake batter. Make a smaller loaf or something else with the remaining batter because it will run over in your stove. Big warning, you better have a 12-cup bundt pan or this will run over in the stove. We're going to slide this into the oven and we're going to get this bacon. It's ready and it smells so good. So we're going to get it out of the oven. Boy, it is gorgeous, y'all. All right, we're going to flip our cake out on top of this beautiful cake plate. I have a gorgeous cake dome that's super tall. It is 6 inches tall, so it will hold a really tall cake. Most of the domes made today aren't this tall. You can get this dome on the website under Shop Now. It is very expensive, but it's a gorgeous large dome. And then if you get the dome, make sure you get a cake plate that will accommodate it. It needs a cake plate that's at least 13 inches, okay? Or it will not fit on top of it. So do not buy a cake plate that's 12 inches. Make sure that it says it's 13 inches. So I'm just going to do it this way. It's still warm, but it's cooled off enough I can hold the bundt pan. And I wanted to slice it while it was still warm. It's just absolutely gorgeous. There's a little bitty piece. You can see it. I'll give you a close-up view all the way around, and then we're going to slice into it. Okay, we're going to see how tall it is. It looks like it's about 4.5 inches tall. And we're going to see there it is. You can tell this dome is really tall. It's about 6 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a standard dome and put on there for you. This is a standard dome. And you can tell it's going to go right up to the top of it. It's fogging it up because it's still warm. Now we're going to give us a slice. I'm going to make a large slice so that you guys can see the cake crumb. Oh, it's nice and warm. We're going to give it a try. Now it's time to eat it, y'all. We're going to have a bite of this delicious pound cake. It is so nice and moist. Wonderful, wonderful texture. Crunchy top. if you want to flip it upside on the other side so that it would cool down, it'd have a crunchy top. Boy, it's good. Maple pecan pound cake. All right, before we get started, I'm going to show you how to separate your eggs. I've already got them cracked in this bowl, and you're going to be adding them to your mix one at a time, the yolks, that is. And so the easiest way to do it is just to crack them, reach in there and grab the egg yolks and let them separate in between your fingers. Sometimes they want to hang on, but just give it time. And then you're just going to take that yolk and put it in a container, and that way we can add these one yolk at a time to our cake mix. And these are at room temperature, and you want to cook with eggs at room temperature when you're making a cake. Okay, we're going to start with 3 cups of sugar. There's 1, 2, and 3. And when you get that in there, you're going to add your butter and mix it until it's nice and fluffy. Let's go ahead and put the butter down in there. This is kind of noisy when it's scraping the sugar against the sides with these scrapers in this mixer. You got 1.5 cups of room temperature butter, which is 3 sticks to 3 cups of sugar. Mix that until it's nice and fluffy. And then we'll start adding our egg yolks one at a time. I'm going to go ahead and measure out my sour cream because I'm going to use a 1/2 cup scoop for my flour. Here's our eggs. We're going to add them one at a time. I'm just going to push them off in there. This is 9 egg yolks. Now you could get by with 6, but I prefer a pound cake with a lot of eggs in it. Let's mix that up really good. Now I'm not going to sift my baking soda into my flour. I don't ever do that. So what we're going to do, let's see, it's a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm just going to add it now, let it mix up. And we're also going to add our flavoring. All right, it's 2 tablespoons of maple flavoring. I'm using Watkins. And maple is really strong. This is actually maple extract. It's not flavoring. So 2 tablespoons of maple extract. Or flavoring, whichever one you can get. Will work. You can see how rich that is. See how dark it is? We're going to put in our sour cream. I'm going to add a half teaspoon of salt. My butter was also salted, so if your butter's not salted, use a teaspoon. People have searched and searched for pound cake recipes that turn out moist. Many of them will turn out dense or they'll be dry. But if you use my pound cake recipes that are in the Master Cookbook, you will be amazed at how delicious they are. We're going to put this guard on, and we'll start adding flour. We'll turn it down to the lowest setting it already is. 3 cups of flour. This is all-purpose White Lily white winter wheat flour. You use whatever you grew up eating, I guess. This is what we grew up on, White Lily. I do know if you can't get White Lily up north, there's a King Arthur that has a white winter wheat. And that should be cheaper than buying cake flour because that's what cake flour is. We've just got one more of these, and that'll be 3 cups of flour. You're going to let it mix a couple of minutes, and then we'll add our pecans. All right, we're going to add our pecans. This is 1 cup of chopped pecans. Now we're going to beat our egg whites and fold them in the mix. Get this in the oven. All right, I've got a bowl here. We're going to mix this together in or fold these in with. So I'm just going to pour them into here. We're just going to beat them. I'm going to use my hand mixer to do it. And I know Grady used to use her, the one that you wind by your hand, but I sure don't want to do that. All right, here we go. Usually takes about 3 minutes to beat egg whites, especially with a hand mixer. It says until stiff peaks form. That's pretty stiff. We'll take it. We're going to fold this in together. That maple flavoring smells so good. And I'm sure it's going to be delicious with that sour cream in there. And it's going to be good, good. Let me rinse my hands off. Now this cake is going to bake. Wait. All right. Here we go. Batter in. Now this is a big cake. So if you've got one of those small bundt pans, the 10 cup, it's probably not going to fit. I know it's not going to fit. You need a 12 cup bundt pan. And most of those that you buy, like at Walmart and places like that, just at the store, most of those are 10 cup. So if you want a large bundt pan like I have, you can go on the website and take a look at mine if you'd like. Okay, that's good, y'all. A lot of people don't like for me to dump batter on top of my egg whites. They say, well, that just ruins them. But good grief. At least I beat them up. Cake ain't near as hard as people make it out to be. Yeah, I don't get scared of stuff like that when people say stuff like that. And then they'll say, you mixed it instead of folded it. I'm folding it, but you still got to fold it enough that the egg whites get incorporated in there. If you don't, then you're going to have big white pieces after your cake bakes in your cake when you cut it. And you don't want that. You could probably get by without doing this. But this is what the recipe told me to do. So that's what I'm doing. I did alter the recipe a little bit. Y'all know me. I got to put in my favorite stuff like salt. I use salt and more eggs and more butter than it called for. If you want to know what I changed. That's good. All right. We're going to get this in the pan. Now, let me show you my pan. This pan is called the Anniversary Edition. And I believe it's made by Cuisinart. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, it's on the website. It's 12 cups. And whenever you make a 3-cup pound cake, when you're using 3 cups of sugar and 3 cups of flour, you're going to need a 12-cup bundt pan. If you've got a regular bundt pan, then you're going to have to bake a portion of this in like a loaf pan or something and do 2 different cakes, all right? Or you can always go on the website and get you an Anniversary Edition or the large 12-cup bundt pan. Now, today I have actually greased it with Crisco. When you grease this, you got to do a really good job because of all the cracks and crevices. Now, if you want to use spray, you can use the baking spray that has the flour in it. But if you use it, you got to make sure to do a really good job and not miss a spot. Now I'm going to flour it. Okay, I've got me some flour, and I'm just going to put a little flour in here and flour it the best I can. They're not the easiest to flour either. I usually just flour the flue as I'm putting the flour in the cake pan, and you got to beat it to get the flour to move around and get out of the cracks. Got to beat it a little bit. Now I'm doing it at an angle to get the edges. That looks good. Let's put our cake in here. There's some egg white. And get this in the oven to bake. Big cake. Now this would be a good one to make for Christmas presents if you make the small loaves for people and put them in the bags, because it's something different. And everybody loves pecan anything at Christmas. All right, this bakes at 300 degrees. It says for an hour and 30 minutes. I'm going to make this in my small oven. Got it. This is going to bake at 300 degrees for an hour and 30 minutes. I think the baking powder made it fizzy like, but I mean, I did it just like the recipe. I guess from folding in those eggs like we did. So the top of it, that's how the top of it looks. There's how it looks. It looks good. And you may not want to fill it quite as full as I did because it did boil over a little bit in the oven. And I did have a pan under there just in case, so that worked out fine. We are going to let this thing cool for a while. Since it did go over the edges, I cut around the edges. I just filled it so full, y'all. I'm having to make sure it's going to release. Pound cake is so good while it's still warm, and this is hot, really. So I'm going to cut us a piece. Let you see how pretty it looks. Now's the time to glaze it if you want to glaze it while it's still really warm. That glaze will get on there real good. I'll show you how pretty it looks on the inside. And it smells real good, and it's hot and smoking. And boy, does it look moist. Very moist. Lots of pecans in there. Now that's a good piece of cake. Hey, I'm Tammy, and this is Collard Valley Cooks. Today, we are going to make the most incredibly moist pound cake with condensed milk. Did you know that you can use condensed milk to make a pound cake? Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. To start this cake, you're going to preheat the oven to 325 degrees. The first thing we're going to do is mix up the cake batter. We're going to make this from scratch, and it is going to be the most delicious and moist pound cake you've ever seen. I'm going to show you what's in here. It's all simple ingredients and things that you're already going to have. We're going to be using 8 room temperature eggs, and we will separate these. I'm going to show you a tip on separating these eggs in just a minute. You're going to use a whole pound of softened butter. Of course, the can of condensed milk, sweetened condensed milk. You're going to use 2 teaspoons of coconut extract. And of course, some vanilla extract. You're going to use an all-purpose flour and granulated sugar. It's easier to separate eggs when they're cold. So if you're not real good at it, you want to make sure that you do them when they're cold. Mine are actually at room temperature, and not only are they at room temperature, they are also fresh. So the yolks are a lot softer and easier to break when they're like that. When you separate eggs, you cannot get any egg yolk into the white, okay? So to me, the easiest way to do it is using your hand. And I'm going to take off my rings today. Let me take my rings off. And I'm going to show you the easiest way to do it. So what you're going to do is you're going to crack the egg shell. Make sure you do a good job cracking it. You take the top part off of it first, the large side, keep the egg yolk in, and then lay it into your hand like that, and let the white fall through the cracks of your fingers, and you can see we kept that yolk intact. You're going to do all 8 that way. Now, when they're cold, you can actually do them with the shell. Like so. And that's how Mama always did them. But if you're going to do them that way, make sure you do them when they're really cold out of the refrigerator. Then let them come to room temperature before you start your cake.
If you're enjoying this video, please give us a like. If you're new to the channel, please head down, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell for notifications when new videos are uploaded.
I got 2 left. And if you're afraid you're going to ruin the whites, don't start it in the bowl of whites like I'm doing. Crack each individual one in a different bowl. And that way, if you do break a yolk, it doesn't mess up all of your egg whites. This is the largest egg that my chickens lay. I need to get me a camera to put in there where they lay their eggs so I can tell who lays what. That would be kind of cool. There you have it. 8 yolks and 8 whites for our cake. Having one of these 13-quart bowls is amazing. If you don't have one, spend the money, go on the website because you're going to be able to use it to mix up your dressing and all kind of stuff. And if you want to go a little larger, it's always to have one too big than not big enough. So you could go even larger than this one if you want to for things like cutting up okra to put up in the summertime, etc. All right, but you will find this 13-quart bowl on the website. Now, the reason I'm going to use this bowl is we're going to mix up the cake mix first. We're going to pour it in the bowl. Then we're going to beat our egg whites and then fold them into the batter before we place it in the oven. Another very important tip when making a pound cake is to make sure you mix it up as it's directed. You're always going to put in your butter and sugar first. You're going to beat it until it's nice and fluffy. Usually takes about 3 to 4 minutes on an electric mixer. And then you will add your eggs. Now, not all pound cakes have you beat the egg whites, but a lot of mine do. So just remember that. Not all of them. Some of them you can add the whole egg in. And you can always add it in if that's what you want to do. You really don't want to beat up the egg whites. The cake will still work, all right? But the egg whites, without the baking powder and soda in this recipe, help the cake have volume, all right? So we're going to turn this on and we're going to mix up our sugar and our butter. We're using a pound of butter and 2 cups of granulated sugar. All right, a pound of butter is 4 sticks. Each stick is a half cup. So a pound of butter is also 2 cups. So you got 2 cups of butter and 2 cups of sugar. There's 1 and 2. You're going to want to beat it until it's nice and light in color like you see now. It looks really good already. So it usually takes about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Now we're going to add each egg yolk and let it beat. And you can put in 1 or 2 at a time if you want to. I'm going to get what's left out of this bowl in there. Now we're going to add our extracts. This is vanilla, 1 teaspoon. And we're going to be using 2 teaspoons of coconut. I'm going to have to use 2 different ones. I'm emptying this one today and then see how much I got in there. I've almost got 2, but not quite. I went to Kroger and they did not have a McCormick extract for coconut. They only had an imitation coconut in their brand. So I went ahead and bought it because I had a little bit of extract left. But if you're making a cake special and you want it to taste extra good, remember if you spend the money on extract, it will taste better. I'm not sure what's available at Walmart, but I do know Publix does have the McCormick and some other grocery stores may or may not. It's up to you. Sometimes you can catch it on sale. Just thought I'd show you that little tidbit of information. And today we use majority extract and just a hint of the flavoring. And I do plan on getting some more extract. Next, we're going to add our Eagle brand milk. If you've got a pound cake recipe and you've made it before, or even if you're using my recipes, remember you can always add a can of condensed milk, sweetened condensed milk, and just make it even moister because it's going to add that sugar and cream in there. It's going to make the cake moister. I want y'all to see my workstation. Every time I use an ingredient, I set it away from my work table. Now you will see that the only thing I have left is coconut, egg whites, and flour. And if you do that, then when you're finished, you won't miss something that's supposed to go in the cake because it'll still be sitting on the counter. I do notice that I don't have salt in here, and I'm going to add a dash of salt because I like to add a dash of salt to anything that's sweet. And my butter had salt in it as well. So I'm just going to add just a little bit of salt because it will make it taste better. Because that flour don't have salt in it, remember. A few dashes, really. It'll make it taste really good. Okay, so what we're going to do now is add our flour. I'm going to put the guard on so that it doesn't splatter everywhere. And we're going to get this sucker finished. You can use a frozen coconut that's thawed, or you can use a flaked sweetened coconut. It's totally up to you which one you use. And now we're going to add our coconut. Well, you can really smell that condensed milk. You're going to put about 12 ounces in there, which is not quite the whole bag because the bag's 14. Boy, it's going to be good, y'all. All right, that's it. What we're going to do, though, remember we've got to mix this in with egg whites. Now, I can't stress enough that you do need a pan that's 12 cup capacity. The smaller bundt pans, like the ones you get at Walmart, are typically 10 cup. If you have a smaller pan, make sure you fill it about 3/4 full and then use the rest of your batter in a loaf pan or some cupcakes or something like that. You're going to grease and flour your cake pan or use a baking spray. And I need to emphasize that if you spray it, use a baking spray that has flour in it. If you don't have that, use shortening and then flour the pan. So now we're going to get our cake batter into our larger bowl. And that way when we beat our egg whites, we can mix it all together. All right, now we're going to beat our egg whites. If you use the same mixing bowl, make sure you wash it and dry it really good. You shouldn't have anything left in there, or it could affect your egg whites beating up stiff. So I've washed and dried all the parts to my mixer. And now we're just going to beat the egg whites until they have a stiff beat. All right, we're going to fold these in to our cake batter. And a lot of my recipes for pound cake, this is a step in them. This is a really thick batter. And so I know it says fold, and that's, what we're doing is folding it. But you also don't want to cut into the cake and there be a large piece of the egg white showing in the crumb. So you want to make sure and do a good job getting it uniform and in there right, just like you would if you were doing an angel food or a sponge cake. You don't want large hunks in there. So just make sure you fold it until you don't see big pieces of white anymore. And that would be now. Make sure you spray your pan really, really good. And when I put a pound cake in, I typically just push it into the pan, and then I turn the pan as I go. It's a lot easier to do it that way than it is to try to move your mixing bowl across the top of your tube pan. And if you get some on the edge, that's fine. You can clean it up. And I don't want it to spill over, and I'm not going to put any more than that in there. You can see I've got some extra. You can use a couple of little ramekins or a small little baking dish and make one on the side, especially if you're going to take this somewhere, then you get a bite. I had a viewer send me this cute little loaf pan set. Well, it's a little baker set. So cute. So if you were that viewer, tell us, because I just can't remember over the years who sends me what. Okay, and I'm sorry, but it's just hard to do. We're going to get the rest of this batter in here, get this in the oven, and boy, are we going to have a good cake today. Now, it's not going to take this one as long because it's not near as deep. So it'll probably be ready in 60 minutes. So I'm going to set the oven on 60 minutes. Then I will get this out and then cook the other one an additional 30 minutes. Make sure you don't cook these up on a 350. Make sure you got the oven on 325. You don't want them to get too brown. But look, we got us a nice little pound cake there. You know, I think this is a really good recipe. This is one of those great recipes that you can use the smaller loaf pan. I think I've got one. It's out in the garage. But you can make these little mini pound cakes. And what's great about them is the little bags you buy at Walmart that's for treats. You can just slide a piece of that pound cake in that bag, twist tie it, and give it to your friends at church or any kind of party. And this recipe is so big, you could make a lot of those. I bet this would make, I think the pan has about 9 loaves in it. You could easily make 18 to 20 loaves. And that's a lot of presents, you know. And the great thing about giving food at Christmas time is you don't have to go out. It costs you a little money, but it's a heck of a lot easier to give 20 people a small pound cake than try to go out and buy 20 people something small, and they will enjoy the pound cake way better. Another thing, let me say this, if you're in cookie clubs, lots of times all the cookies wind up tasting like each other. So if you're going to put your cookies in a cookie club and on a platter for Christmas, try to bag them up in individual little bags as well, so that when somebody gets their platter, the cookies are actually wrapped individually and they don't taste like each other, because lots of times that happens as well, especially with cinnamon or anything banana will overpower the other cookies. It smells so good in here. And the cakes are already ready. It took them 60 minutes only, maybe because of the tube pan I used. But it is beautiful, just beautiful. nice and toasty brown. And I just took this one out, and we're going to slice into this one, and that way I can save the round layer for pictures. Don't it look delicious? I love pound cake warm. I'm not sure if you do or not, but we sure do. We love it so much warm that we actually slice it, put butter on it, and toast it in the oven. Look how soft that looks. It's just as soft as it can be and moist. Now you can see right here how delicious, and it's just as moist as it can be. Let's give it a taste. Mm. Y'all, this is one of the most delicious pound cakes you will ever make. So if you're wanting to make a pound cake this year for the holidays, I suggest you give this one a try. It is absolutely delicious, and everybody is going to want your recipe. We just want to thank you for watching Collard Valley Cooks, where we cook like our mamas did, and y'all give this a try. Make sure you leave a comment if you try this recipe. We'll see you next time. We love you. Bye-bye.